Testing, testing. 1, 2, 3. Testing, testing. Why is this not showing up? Oh, there it goes. Okay, cool. Alrighty then. I'll scribble something on screen so I can see about how long my lag is running for. Do. Screen scribbles. There we go. And then I'll watch for that, and I'll have an idea about how long the lag's running. Alright. I'm going to look for folks showing up in the chat. It looks like we're running about a 15-second lag there. And so, alright, we are live. Live. 4 minutes till official start time. So, alrighty. It's just, I'll load up a few little things that will be handy to have for today's session. Let's see. There we go. Right. I want to make sure I have the hair up from the last session, because that was something I wanted to talk about a little bit, was opening up to any questions, because I've had some people contact me with things that were, questions and so on about this. And really a lot of what we're doing today is, I think it's been billed as kind of a pickup seminar. This is it's not so much a seminar as much as this is an opportunity for folks maybe who've seen this stuff before, or who haven't but have rewatched it, to come in and get an opportunity to ask some questions again. And instead of being a more focused kind of event where I have an agenda that's set that I'm going to be going over, where I kind of fly on my own. Really what I'm doing today is being here just to kind of talk to folks, maybe show a few things, kind of walk back through some aspects of what we've shown in a couple of the previous seminars, and give folks a chance to kind of dig in a little bit, and maybe pick up some more information that maybe they missed, or just get some clarification on some things. So I am looking at our chat feed. I see we've got some people joining. That's good. I'm also curious about the timing on these. Probably the best time for me, schedule-wise, in doing these is typically going to be on Fridays around this time. And I really like having folks able to join us for the live event. But of course, we do also repost these so you can watch them later. But if folks have any input, anything that they'd like to add or discuss regarding our scheduling of these, please feel free. Say something. Say something in the chat. Say something to us on Facebook or even Twitter. I think we're going to start using the Twitter feed a little bit more. And talk to us. We're listening to what you guys think and what you want, and I'm going to be kind of tailoring what I do with this effort in the future. Try and make it as inclusive and convenient to as many folks as I can. So anyway, so there's that. Just let us know what you think, and we'll do what we can to make it make things even better. So I'm here. I have my coffee. We're set up. I have a number of assets handy, and let's see. I see Jose R. Of course, Gina is here. Hey, Gina. And we have Sally Schrock. Hope I'm pronouncing that right. If not, please correct me at some point somehow. Let's see. Susan is here. Susan Avery. She's been with us a few times now. Susan's pretty cool. Does some good character work and textures and that sort of thing. Also, folks, something that I want to toss out there is the possibility of either adding or occasionally moving these to Google Hangouts. Because my understanding is on Google Hangouts we can have a lot less of the delay and the lag in the stream, and we can have much more direct interaction. And I think that might be really beneficial. Just a matter of if folks are interested in that sort of thing or not. So, that's something else that I want to put out there for folks who are coming to these things and get your feedback on it. So, let's see. Yeah, Susan says we can all share screens. Yes. I've been joining in. I outside of this stuff, I also do a fair amount of work in the field of comic book illustration, and been joining in some Google Hangouts with some friends of mine who also work in comics, and kind of sharing our screens and doing this sort of thing while we work. And that's been pretty cool. It's been an interesting experience, and I'm curious to see if folks with this will dig that sort of thing too. So that's something to keep in mind. I'm gonna hit the coffee again one more time. Here we go. Yay, coffee. Must have coffee. So, I want to go ahead and open this up. Since this is really supposed to be kind of question format today, and every once in a while, as I get to talk, and every once in a while, I'm probably going to reach over and move things on my screen for a second, just to be sure that everything's still running, because there is that little bit of a delay. I'm going to be paying real close attention, much more close attention today to the chat window. So, because this is supposed to be more of an interactive question session today. So, folks who are here right now, anyone have anything that you'd like to start off with? Anybody have a particular area that I've been going over that you would like for me to kind of dig into and kind of work with for a minute? Just post something, and as I see it hit, I'll address that. I'll probably say your name and then read the question off, question or comment, and then kind of take off from there. So at the moment, until I see something pop up, I have the hair in here from the last session. I'm also going to go ahead and load up so you guys can see a little sneak peek of what's coming next, and it's pretty cool. There's a lot of different ways to do hair. I'm a big fan of using fiber mesh. There's a lot of reasons that I use fiber mesh, and I use it for a lot of different types of hair related projects, whether it's hairstyles or body fur, things like that. And we have a new product with our friend Josh Crockett. Josh is kind of I would call him a pretty heavy hitter in the concept art world, working in film and TV. He's done a lot of cool stuff in that. And Josh has come on board with us at 6S1. He's been a friend of ours for a long time, and he's officially on board, working with us to kind of expand our stylistic scope with creatures and all that. And there's a new take on the concept of a Yeti that we're bringing, that actually sits on a G3 male chassis, and we're going to be bringing that to CGBytes really soon. But anyway, on that, you'll see there's some really cool body fur and that sort of thing. And that's something that we might get into at some point down the road with hair. But then this is just another use of another approach to hair is for doing really specific styles. There's a very sculptural approach that we can take, and this is probably more in line with what folks are used to seeing in the content market. There's a handful of really killer hair creators out there, folks who just focus quite a bit on making hair for the content market. So I wanted to give a sneak peek. The next big event we're going to be doing, I think next week, is going to focus on some of the techniques used to kind of work in that the stylistic realm that you see more commonly in some of the content market, because I know fiber mesh is kind of a different beast. It's something that's a little outside the norm for those folks. I figured folks might dig seeing something that's a little more familiar. So I'm going to peek over at the chat. Let's see. Susan says, I want a texture Yeti. Susan does have mad skills. Yes, you do. All right. So, yeah, I'm watching the chat and watching our the folks who join and everything today. Also watching that really closely. I'm curious to see how many folks that we get, because it's it's live on a Friday afternoon, and I'm reserving my expectations on that. Like I said earlier, this is kind of the most convenient time for me. This is when I would love to do these. And I don't know, we're still examining kind of the format of this whole effort and making decisions about where that's going to go moving forward. It may be something where we switch out, very seriously considering changing things out to a set of ongoing pre-recorded sessions with maybe a monthly live Google Plus session where Google Hangout, so that we kind of break things up, because I do get a lot of feedback from people saying they're like, oh, I really want to make it. I'll catch it as a rewatch. So since that's kind of a thing, there's a lot that we're trying to consider with that. The response so far has been really good, so I'm happy about that, and I hope that everyone here is really digging what we're doing. So let's see. Also, to everyone who's here, it's really cool to me. This is something I enjoy doing, and I really am enjoying the interaction with folks and the feedback and things that I get, even after one of these is done. I also want to see what kind of artwork you do. I really want to see, I want to be able to put, instead of faces with names, I want to be able to put art with names. I want to be able to see your names in the chat and go, oh yeah, Jose or Suzanne sent me, showed me this artwork or shared this artwork that they did using some stuff that they might have picked up from some of what we're doing. I want to see that. I really want to see what you guys are doing and where you're taking the stuff that I have to share with you, because that's part of the fun part of this for me. Is kind of seeing, I kind of see it as planting seeds, and I want to see what those grow into with you guys. So and even if what you show is just questions and things like that, and again, that's another one of the reasons I'm seriously thinking about Google Hangouts, because I want to see what everyone's doing. If I could do this in a live classroom with everyone, I would. That'd be awesome. So anyway. Here's just this little sneak peek at what's coming next week, and show you some polygroups on it. This is way more involved. One of the things I like about fiber mesh compared to this sort of sculptural approach is fiber mesh has a lot of tools that lets us get up and running really, really quickly, whereas working like this is much more time intensive. much more time intensive. In next week's piece, I probably will not be able to go start to finish on a piece, kind of like I like to do in these. I really love being able to show you guys, hey, in 2 hours, 3 hours time, you can go start to finish on something. I think that's cool, just because folks are very. I always found for myself, when I could sit down, start something, and finish it, that was really satisfying. And I think that that's something cool to show people and kind of get them worked into. But something like this, you're probably not going to do in one session. But it does have a lot of little pluses to it, and there's still a lot of ways that techniques that I use in the fiber mesh methods actually roll over into this, and some concepts and things that still work out there. So it's pretty nifty stuff, and we'll be digging into that. We'll be digging into that down the road a bit. So I wonder if I have a texture on that. No, I don't. Okay, not inside here. So let's see. Susan has a question. Okay, a more in-depth explanation of trans maps in Zbrush for the hair, and is it really easy to share? Google Hangouts. Let's see. Susan, if anyone has any suggestions about other formats for doing these kind of things in, I'm all ears. I'm not married to the Google live stream at all. It's just that this particular format was something that I knew that I was already familiar with, and knew I could get up and running with really quickly. So, any input you guys have on that kind of stuff, please feel free to share it. I'm all ears. Now, Susan's asking about more in-depth explanation of trans maps in ZBrush. Let's see. I'm trying to kind of discern where to take that, because there's a lot of different directions we could go in. There's the subject of creating trans maps that you're going to use in your mapping. That's kind of an element that I could go back into for just a minute, because I know that was something that folks mentioned to me was a little new to them, a little strange to them. Let's see if I have a ZTL for that handy. I may have to make a new one, which is not a bad thing. Let's do that real quick. Was flattening out the map. Okay. So let's take a quick look back into that. See, Susan says I got a little confused when you're flattening out the map. So let's do that, since we don't have any maps on this hair at the moment. I want to double check and make sure that I have this UV mapped. No, I do not want to create on that. I want to look at. Here we go. It should be square. Oh, nope. Okay. Not yet. Okay. So we'll make a new map that'll go on this. This will be the one that we use to look at that. So I'm going to start a new document and make it square just out of habit. Let's make this 1024 by 1024. And I'm going to resize. Let's resize the one that I have. Then let's zoom out so I can see my entire document bounds. Then I'm going to start with just a cube. And here's something just to kind of keep in mind is you're probably going to want to polymesh this cube, hitting polymesh, make polymesh 3D, and then go into, you're either going to want to dynamesh it or Z-remesh it. So let's just Z-remesh it to the same poly count that it currently has. And I'll do that with symmetry turned on. That's X on your keyboard. And the reason I'm going to do that is if we go back and look, if I undo back to where you see the beginning, you'll see that the cube primitive in ZBrush actually has poles. Okay, it's really a sphere. If you actually start smoothing it out, you find out very quickly that it's actually just a sphere that's been flattened. It's kind of funny. But it has poles, and those poles, when we go to grow fiber mesh out, can do some strange things. So we want to go ahead and Z-remesh that, or dynamesh. Either one works, so that we get flat polygons everywhere without poles. So then I want to make sure that I check. Oh, and look at that. Abnormal termination. ZBrush freaked out on me. That's magical. Let's fire this back up again. That was magical. Alright. At least it comes back fast. Alright. Just open my project back up. There we go. So, you can see a quick recap then. Let's do 1024, 1024. Resize it. Now, again, we're going to drop a cube onto our canvas, hit T to go into edit mode, make polymesh 3D, because before that, it's still just a cube primitive. Then I'm going to go into geometry, Z-remesher, hit X to turn on symmetry, and I'm going to set Z-remesher to same. There we go. Then I want to look at the floor and make sure that I'm pointed the right direction. So whichever direction my blue line, that's the Z-axis, is pointed, that's pointing forward. So now I can see this is the front. And I'll turn the floor back off. Then I'm going to take a transpose move tool with symmetry turned on and stretch this cube out so that it just becomes kind of a bar like this. And if I wanted, I could maybe use a clip curve and then I'm going to Z-remesh that one more time. I want a nice even polygon spread across the object for the way that I'm going to use it. But this bar right here, this stretched cube, is just for the sake of being a surface to generate some fibers from. So let's zoom out so I can see my document bounds. Then I'm going to hit F to frame it. So that's going to lock this object. It's going to snap this object to the sides of the document. And then I'm going to drag a transpose line. This is just a nice, easy way to move this to where we need it. Don't do that. Then I'm just going to mask that bottom little edge there that we see showing. And now I'll turn on fiber mesh. And let's just give this some color so that it stands out from that gray background. Then I'll adjust the length on it. And I think in the seminar, the last seminar, I was going very coarse with the hair. Gina says this is the part that went wonky on me. Yeah, I was a little worried about that. I was trying to cram this in there and really fit some stuff in there about this at the time, and I knew that it might not that I might be glossing over a little bit. So that's really why we're here today, is to take stuff like this and kind of open them up a little bit more. So I actually want to scale that tool just a little bit and move it, because I don't want it running. I don't want these hairs running off the document bounds. Of course, we'll end up editing those here in a second anyway. We'll make just, I don't know. You could go super dense with this and have a ton of hair there, or you can go very light and open. I find that that when you're creating hair meshes, the best results oftentimes come from having 3 or 4 different material assignments on that mesh. So some sheets have one material, some sheets have another, and I usually organize those by where they rest. So if they're like bottom layers that are close to the scalp, those will be bottom, and then there'll be mid-range layers and the top layers, and I'll have those materials using progressively less dense mapping. That way, the layers close to the head provide thickness and coverage, and then as you move out in the layers, you're getting more of the little flyaways and the little baby hairs and all that sort of thing. So let's spend a minute with this. Then I'm going to crank up these segments something higher so that we can have some fluidity with them and be able to edit these just a little bit differently, a little bit better once we break them off into their own subtool. I also am going to increase the coverage and turn my profile up to 6. 6 is good. I'm going to skip that note. It's just a display note. Let's turn the number of fibers down just a little bit. I'm also going to edit my length profile and use that to drive the hair, the initial length of that hair. Then I also want to turn off length variations. I want that completely gone. That way I can actually gauge what I'm doing here. So I'm going to take a second to glance over at the chat and see if anyone has any questions so far. And if there's any questions, please. I see Mike Griffin says afternoon all. Sorry I'm late, Mike. Welcome on to our little get together here. It's a very interactive day today, so if you have any questions, feel free to pop those in here. At the moment, we're going back over some elements of creating hair textures using fiber mesh. So let's see. We want to look at the length just a little bit more and the coverage. Those are 2 really important parts of this. So I'm going to increase that length just a little tiny bit. We're going to go a little bit at a time until we've almost filled our canvas, our image area. There we go. And we can do a lot of little edits inside, like width profile, that are going to affect, like here, if I move this part of the curve, that's going to make these strands become thicker in the center. If I were to take this part of the curve and move it down, you're going to see they become thinner at the end. So if you wanted to have them completely tapered off at the end, you could just do that with this curve. If you wanted them to be particularly thick at the base, you could lift the left side of the curve up. And if you take a curve point in any of these curve editors in ZBrush and you click and drag it off of the editor, then that deletes that curve point. So I think that from here I want to increase my gravity, which is going to have kind of a pulling effect and help straighten those hairs out a bit. I'm also going to get rid of most things like twist. There's nothing in revolve, so I'm gonna turn that off. Let's see. Directional variations, I want those off. And then you see that it becomes very, very straight. I'm also going to change my shader so I can get kind of a different view. Sometimes it's a good idea to switch back and forth between different shaders, because different shaders can tell you different things about what you have going on. Let's give this just pardon me, just a little bit more surface area variation, then tiny bit of revolve rate variation. I like to take these settings down to 0, and then if I'm going to use them for anything, I'll bring them back up very gradually. Let's see. Mike Griffin, I have maybe a question. Okay, Mike asks, I have maybe an odd question with both the clothing event and the hair event. He says, you made them for and exported them to DAZ. How different would it be for me to do it for Poser and Poser figures? Actually, Mike, it's not that different. The entire process inside Zbrush is going to be, I'm going to say virtually identical. I actually think it's completely identical. I'd have to kind of sit and reflect on that for a second to say for sure, but it is virtually, if not completely, identical inside Zbrush. So so there's that. The actual process of getting it into Poser as opposed to Dash Studio is extremely similar. Poser also has a GoZ plugin. And there's a great pipeline from ZBrush over to Poser through GoZ. If you're making something that is simply a prop, like a hair prop that's a static prop that goes onto the character's head, we can send things over through GoZ. I actually tend to save them out as OBJs first instead for a lot of reasons, but it's not that different. It's similar. Let me see if I can explain this in the easiest way possible. It's a very similar process. They have they have sets of tools that do the exact same things. They're just in different places and look and feel a little different. And it's actually because of that we are putting together some very Poser specific development seminars coming up. That's one of the things that I'm looking at in new content that we're going to be doing with these. Is gearing a few of them towards Poser users. I think my choice in going with Dash Studio right off in the introduction of these really had more to do with the fact that I'm involved in a lot of Dash Studio related development at the moment, and that's kind of where my head's been at. But I've also, if you follow 6S1 stuff, I've been doing Poser stuff for about as long as it's existed, and we can definitely address that in a future seminar and actually give our planning on dealing with that, giving you a straight up walkthrough of that whole pipeline and how that can work. So it's not that different. There are some hoops you have to jump through, just like there are with DAZ. Both programs have their own little idiosyncrasies to them. So, and we will be going into that in the future. So if you kind of stick around, keep an eye out for what we're doing with that, you'll get those answers in great detail down the road. So, glance back at the chat. Let's see. Susan says just a matter of changing how you finish for the program. Yes, exactly. So I hope that answers that question at least somewhat. So I'm going to go back into working with this, creating these hair textures from inside here. Okay. Let's go ahead and change this tip color, you can see that we can do a lot of that kind of, we can do a lot of work from just inside this preview fiber mesh menu. If I hit accept, it's going to bring up this little dialog. I always hit no on this because fast preview just shows these little splines for the hairs, and I want to actually see them. So I'm going to hit no, and then we'll see this hair broken off into its own subtool. So if I go to my subtools, you can see this now. Okay, and you get this nice little preview of it there where you can see the top of it is kind of shaved off from where it grows. If I were to move let's frame this up. Come back here. There we go. If I were to move this on the stage, on the canvas, come back. I think I accidentally went out of edit mode. Hold on just a second. I'm just going to clear my layer and draw this out again. Interesting. Zbrush is not wanting to play nicely today. There's that one. I'm going to be switching back and forth here for just a second. Let's just regenerate those hairs. Yes. Huh. Well, that is interesting. That is interesting. There we go. And that just goes to show, no matter how much you do this, sometimes you can have moments where things just get a little wonky. So let's go back into that fiber mesh now. Since we had that in preview mode here, actually I probably was pushing more fibers there for what I'm wanting to show than I really needed. So let's turn this guy around, frame it up. Hit accept. I'm going to break that off into a subtool, and then I can hit my down arrow key to move down to that subtool. Now, if I hit solo, you'll see that our bar disappears, and you can see these little sort of roots that show from where those fibers start. Now, you can also see some guys out at the end here kind of straggling off. So at this point, what I would do is use my move transpose tool, just drag a transpose line, and move those. Or I could use a move brush. If I turn on symmetry, since it was created off a symmetrical object, it will try to move those around as close to symmetrically as possible. I'm thinking this is still kind of on the dense side, so let's generate that one more time, but with fewer fibers. There we go. This is much more reasonable, much more conducive to a faster workflow. So we'll hit accept, hit no, arrow down, and turn on symmetry, and now we can edit this very, very easily. Now, the nice thing about creating textures like this, let's just hit render and you'll see this. The nice thing about creating textures like this is you get trans maps and color maps that correspond to each other very accurately. That's something I'm quite fond of. I think that it's really there's this level of detail. I know a lot of times, and I'll be showing this in upcoming in next week's seminar. A lot of times, folks use these more gradient-based color maps for the hair, and then have that sit on top of a trans map, and that can yield a certain look as well. That's really a popular sort of style, where where it has this kind of smoothness to it. This really, to me, it has a very airbrushed sort of look, which I used to do airbrushing. A lot of airbrush work myself, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's kind of cool. I typically want something that has a little grainier, a little more visceral, a little more. I don't know if you want to say hyper real, or I don't know. I've heard all kinds of different terms used for stylistically what I'm going for, but that's more along the lines of what I go for when I'm creating these textures. So I want those color maps and my trans maps and my normal maps and all those things to be completely in sync with each other. So that's what you're going to get with something like this. You're going to get synchronization of those maps, and a lot of options for creating new maps with that. Now, you can actually combine this method with what I was talking about with those gradients, which really introduces Photoshop into the mix. And that's kind of a cool thing too. That's something else that we can go over if anyone's interested in it. But where I would go in here for creating these maps and creating them very quickly from right inside ZBrush is we could take this and then these fibers that we just saved out. We can hit render on that, and then we can save that very quickly. We can do what's called grab doc, and grab the document here in the screen, and then have that as a texture. So we could also color this and do quite a bit, of styling as far as color goes. Let's take our standard brush. We'll hit RGB, turn that on. I want to make sure that that bar is hidden also, so that we don't have that thing showing up. Now, if we turn on RGB on any tool, turn on RGB, you're going to be painting into PolyPaint. I have the standard tool selected. So let's say we wanted to make this into something kind of blonde. One way that we could go is just by changing the color here and then brushing over it. And then we could paint in all kinds of ways with that. And I'll vary back and forth between kind of a brighter yellow and some of these sort of muted orange brown tones. If you wanted to add some variation, you can go into spray, maybe even turn on an alpha with that. You'll see how that sprays onto the object. Then from there, I would render that. And I don't know how aliased this is going to look inside the stream, but where I'm working to a 1024 by 1024 square document, I do have to zoom out a little bit. I have to zoom my document view out a little bit to be able to see all my boundaries, which means that while you're working like that, it might actually look kind of aliased and a little grainier than it should. But if we were to go to hit actual, then you'll see, especially after a BPR render, that clears up. And here you see how you get this nice lock of hair created. So here I've generated a render from that. And the next thing I'm going to do is go to my texture tab and hit grab doc. And now you'll see we have an image created of that. And we could export that image from here. We can toss that into our subtools. We can do a lot of things with that. We could paint with that. We could paint with that in our subtools. A lot of times I actually like to start with generating some textures in this way and then have them in my texture menu. Okay, you'll find your texture menu up here. I'll generate sometimes 3 or 4 of these at different densities or different colors and have those sitting here so that I can actually paint with them on things like the scalp, or there's so many different uses for that. So the next thing that we want is a transmap, and the quick way that I like to generate that is to change my material to flat color, and then change my color to white, and then go to color, fill object, and there you see you get a completely white fill of the object. And I'm going to set the my document range to 0 and my background to black. And you do that by clicking on the swatch, and then whatever color your picker goes over becomes your color. So then from there, I'll hit BPR again, and that's going to give me a render of that flattened white object. And we will hit grab doc for that. So now we have our transmap that corresponds perfectly to that image map. Okay, let's see. Then the one time I think in the last seminars that I stepped out of ZBrush for editing my textures was to generate my normal maps, which I would do using this. Let's go to BPR render passes. Here, when you render in ZBrush, you use BPR render, and when you use that, it creates multiple passes by default. This might be an area to take a minute and talk about in a little bit more depth, because I'm guessing that a lot of Daz and Poser folks are probably not as familiar with render passes as I would like for them to be. But render passes are incredibly cool, and you can use them for all kinds of things. And fortunately, a couple versions back, Poser introduced them by default. Before that, you had to use a set of scripts that you could buy in one of the stores to get those render passes. Most of the higher end softwares, Max, Maya, XSI, Houdini, Cinema 4D, all of these, Lightwave, all of these have done render passes forever, because especially in film broadcast effects, we use render passes all the time. What they do is the render passes will give you separated images for the different elements that you need to composite your image. They'll give you flat color, they'll give you depth, specularity, shadows, all these different things. And normally those render passes are used in the creation of art and animation, creating final renders. But here I use them in production, because as I'm creating these hair maps, I will do renders, and of course ZBrush is going to give me these render passes, and out of those render passes I'll get this nice depth channel. And if I click that, I then have the option to save it. So I'm going to go out here and save this let's put this into seminars, hair, and I'll just toss this on top. This will be sample hair depth channel. Okay. Then once I have that, let's just navigate down to that. So once I have that file that it saves out, then I can open that inside Photoshop. Of course, it's going to come in as a 16-bit grayscale image. So I need to change that to 8-bit, and then I need to change it to RGB. Here we can see it up close. Okay. So once I change that to 8-bit and RGB, then I could go to filter, and for a long, long time now, we've used the NVIDIA normal map filter, which looks like this, and it's fine. It does a great job. I still use it sometimes. Or I highly, highly encourage folks to go look up and download a program called XNormal. XNormal is free. It's a standalone program. And it's really neat. You can use it for generating normal maps for models. Let's say you sculpted something, and for whatever reason you weren't happy with the normal maps that you were getting out of Zbrush, or you used some other method to create a high-res sculpt of something. With XNormal, you can actually tell the program to compare your high-res model and your low-res model and generate your normal maps from that. So, and it does a really good job. But when you download it, you also, in its installation, it installs its own Photoshop plugins, and I kind of like it a little bit better. I find that it gives a little bit more clarity in my normal maps than the NVIDIA plugin. So for that, I'm going to go down to filters, then XNormal, and then go to height to normals, and this is what that is going to look like. Okay. And we can adjust a couple things in here if we want, but I'm going to leave it set to the default, and then hit continue, and there you see the normal map that it generated for that hair. And then we would just save that. So I'll call that normal map. And there we have a normal map that is going to correspond to any other maps that we output now by rendering inside ZBrush with this tool active. So back inside ZBrush, I'm going to zoom back out my document. I'm going to change my material. And this is also another great place where you can create all kinds of cool texture variations. You don't have to use just color. If I undo after having flooded it with white, if I undo and go back to where I have that blonde color, we could do a lot of things with just these materials to get just completely other looks. There's a lot of different materials in here that yield some interesting effects. Let's say you were going to do something that was cartoon shaded. You could actually generate cartoon shaded hair textures where the strands themselves actually have line weight just by using some of the things that are right here. There's a lot that we could go over with that, a lot of interesting stuff, and I don't want to get too far into the weeds with that because it's fun and I can enjoy it, but I'll end up taking up a lot of time with that. So anyway, whatever material you have on in here is going to affect the way it renders. Like here, I put a nice what was this, chrome? Yeah, it was a really chrome material, or this shiny material. Let's go back to chrome. Okay. So, just imagine, right there is something that's kind of an interesting thing that you could do that's very unique. I don't know, I might do this. I haven't seen anyone put out hair textures that look like this. Here you have hair that's actually metallic. I think that's kind of cool. So using this method, though, compared to the more gradient-based methods that you see in a lot of hairs out of Photoshop, using this method, you're going to get a whole other kind of control and a set of options that are really unique and give you some really cool creative options. So I hope that that kind of explains some things based on Susan's question. I know it took a long time with that, but it's actually a really in-depth thing to go into. Another application of this, actually, before I leave this subject, another application of this that I might use would be keeping my initial shape, my initial subtool here, because if I wanted to go back and create more textures that correspond with those other maps, I'd want to have that. So I could, however, duplicate that subtool. The button for that's right here. I use the key command. I could duplicate that and then have that copy as a starting point. Let's go back to more standard material. And then we could actually have hair textures that have style in the textures themselves, like so, where we can go in and manipulate those hairs. We could actually groom that hair just using the groom tools, and then we could pull that stuff together. Maybe if we wanted to have some tighter or clumpier sorts of maps, we can actually use the grooming then to cause this hair to do that and be able to save that into a map. And I find that to be really, really useful. It's one of those things it's such a powerful thing to have at your disposal that I don't think that even I've gotten to that point yet where I realize everything that you can do with it. It's one of those things. It's like the more you play with it, the more you figure out, and it just gets cooler every time you go messing with this. So, we could have hair clumps that taper in and then fan back out. It's just you can imagine just whatever you can come up with, you can do, and then translate that over into into your hair. So I think that's really cool. And as merchants, vendors, content artists, professional content artists, trying to do this stuff to sell, something that is a really, really useful thing, especially folks who, let's say you wanted to make a package of hair textures. With the growing number of hair creators that there are who are using squared UVs, like you get through fiber mesh, things that can use image maps like this, you could actually create some interesting products that would just be hair tiles, or just hair textures like this that would be usable on a variety of hair products that are already out there, as well as useful to folks outside just Poser and Daz, because I know guys in gaming and broadcast and film and blah blah blah, all that stuff, all those worlds, they're always collecting libraries of resources like this, and anything that saves them, if it saves them the 10 or 15 minutes or 20 minutes or hour of work that it takes to generate stuff on their own, they'll definitely give it a shot. So those are some products that you can do using these methods right here. So let's take a look back at the chat. Let's see, morphing. Okay. Sally Schrock says, lost the sound here. It could be a glitch in the feed. I haven't seen anyone else say anything about that. Let me know if you need me to recap anything for you, though. So, Susan is asking about morphing. Oh my God, Susan, there's so many different aspects of morphing we could get into. Let's see. Do you have a specific question about morphing that you'd like for me to answer? Because I could just take off with just morphing for hair and run with that for probably a good couple hours. So I see a smiley face coming back at me there. Nope. Okay. So let me pick something with that and see if it kind of tosses some techniques out that'll at least kind of help you move a little further. So I'm gonna kind of reset my document. Let's remove that tool from my stage and we'll do a new document. No, I want to resize all of this. Let's see. Nope. Okay. Then let's take the hair as an example from the last seminar. And let me pop over into DS real quick. And this, by the way, this should work for really either DAZ Studio or Poser. I have them both open right now. Let me load in a G3 female. And once I have her loaded, I need to see if I still have the library handy from the last seminar. I think I do. Let's see. Is it the punky gothy hair? No. Banded fluffy, I think was it. Here we go. Hair. Okay. Let's toss that on there. And I think, I could be wrong, I haven't looked at this again since since the seminar where we made this, but I do believe that we have some morphs on here. So there you can see some of those in action. And one of the things that I love about fiber mesh is the way that it has roots that stay pinned. Corkscrew hair, that would be neat. That would be neat. That would be neat. Susan in the chat says corkscrew hair would be neat. Let's look at this that we have here, and I'll show you some ways to manipulate this, do some morphs and things with it that are pretty nifty, pretty cool. Let's just couple things. I want to make sure that all my subtools right now are set to their lowest subdivision levels. So I'll just hit all low. Now those guys are all brought down. I'm going to double check this. I think I want to say that I have this set up properly at the moment, so that if I merge these subtools, merge visible, that it should give me a merged OBJ or a merged tool that I could send to DAZ Studio. So just so I can double check this and make sure that it's going to work, here I'm on my subtool that is fiber mesh, okay, and I have that labeled hair. I'm going to hit store morph target so that I save my initial shape, and let's use the groom hair toss, and I'm just going to make a slight, make a little change to this. Let's blow this hair around a little bit. This is really just so I have a shape that I can tell, you know, that something happened with it. Then I'm going to hide that underlying figure. So I only want these elements, pardon me, that correspond to the elements that I made my hair prop for DAZ Studio from. And then I'll hit merge visible. And now I have, pardon me, I have a copy of that all merged together. And I want to double check, okay, DAZ Studio. Then I should be able to hit Go Z and send that over. And when I send it, now you notice I loaded the object in out of my library in DAZ Studio. So it's not connected to anything in ZBrush initially. I need to reconnect that. And this is one of the things that I really like about DAZ Studio is that it has this, it gives you this option of reconnecting items to things that have the same vertex count in ZBrush. So here, this Go Z import options comes up, okay, and I'm going to choose update an existing object, and it has analyzed the vertices and says, oh, this object corresponds with banded fluffy hair, so you could update this. And I'll hit accept, and then, pardon me, getting all verklempt, as Rebecca would say, my wife Rebecca. We'll call this test 1, And I'm going to create a property group. You right-click on that to do this. Call this hair morph test. Actually, let's call it demo. Then I'll hit accept. And so now we see that appear, and boom, we have our shape. So if I restore that, I can come back over here to Zbrush and switch back to my original shape and keep going. Now, I cannot stress enough how important it is. If you have a hair item like this that has, like I have a scalp, I have a piece of clothing in the form of a hairband, and then I have all of the strands, the fibers that grow from it. Those things are all saved here as separate subtools so that I can edit them quickly and easily. But you'll find, like, if I tried to send this hair straight over to ZBrush right now, because it's all combined together as one object in in Dash Studio, because it's all combined together as one object, it wouldn't work if I tried to send just the hair or just the scalp or just the hairband. They have to be merged together for this method. Now, sometimes you might make a hair prop that is just hair, and your final shape that you send over could be just this. In that case, you probably wouldn't need to go through that extra step you see me using of merging the subtools. But for this case, I kind of picked something that was a little more complicated than just hair. I wanted something that had an object embedded in it because it would show you that extra step of how you need to merge those things together, but you still can create that pipeline back and forth. So, let me take a quick look at the chat and see if there's any more anything else. Let's see. Jay Hudson, is that hair available to seminar attendees? I think that it is. Terry, yes. Terry says, Jay, email me directly and I'll give you instructions. Okay, cool. Let's see. I'm going to skim back through the chats. I got to talking for a minute there. I want to skim back up just a little bit. Terry, I'd like to know how you would make corkscrew curls. Okay. Well, you know what? This hair that we're looking at right here, it's a little on the low. Well, actually, you know what? It's not even that low res. This is actually pretty dense, and the sheets themselves have enough resolution. Let's take a look at just a single hair sheet on this. So, if I take a look at just the single hair sheet, you can see we have actually a good amount of resolution here that we could do quite a bit with. So this is one of the things that I like about fiber mesh, is just how versatile it is. Because it's pinned and because you have all these tools for editing it, you can do some really cool things. So let's look at doing something like a corkscrew and show just how versatile this is. Let's go ahead and isolate just this group. Okay. Oh, before we do that, I'm going to store a morph target so that I have my shape. And then with this group selected, I'm going to add some length to this hair. And there's so many different ways to do that. The way I'm going to do that right now is going to be use a move transpose tool. And I'm just going to drag a transpose line and then move the hair, and you'll see that as I do that, it grows. Then I will take my move brush and we can shape that out from there. We can actually do all kinds of styles with just this hair. Okay. If we wanted to actually get very accurate cutting, we can go back and use our clip curve. And to use the clip curve, you hold Control Shift so that you're in your selection brushes, and then you choose the clip curve, and then on the canvas you hold Control Shift, click and drag. Once you start dragging, you don't let up. Once you start dragging, you can let go of the keys. Hopefully you can hear those keys let go. Then you can hit Alt, and every time you hit the Alt key, you tap it, you create a curve point in the line you're drawing. So here I've grown this hair out longer, and then I'm trimming it little bits at a time, and then I'm holding the smooth key, holding shift to smooth that back. So now let's make this other area longer. Just use the move brush for that, and then smooth it just a tiny bit. Okay. And let's just do a little bit of quick shaping here. And if I get quiet for a second, it's just because this is sort of not really thought intensive, but it's kind of hypnotic stuff to end up doing. You can kind of get into this and just lose a lot of time to it, which is part of the fun of doing this stuff, I think, is how much you can just sort of get into it. So here you can see, I'm pulling out this stuff and getting some length with it. Then if I wanted to start adding some of that sort of corkscrew type shape that's been mentioned by a couple of folks now, let's just finish that out a little bit, pull that in a little tighter. Let's take these in the front, right? So there are a number of different ways that we could we can reshape this. So let's look inside our brushes and go to Groom Spin Knot, and we'll just brush over this once and see what that does. That's going to give us this little ball. If we brush in one area, that's going to ball that hair up. I like to turn the Z-add down on something like that, and here we can get these waves coming in. And then I will just go with the smooth command back over the ends just a little bit. Turn that way down. Turn the Z-add on that brush way down. And here you can see we can get a lot of that cool waviness in there. Now over here, if I wanted to show you how to take some clumps of hair and spiral them, let's take our mask pen. And of course, the way masking works, FiberBrush can do some special things with masking. When you paint over it, it paints by the strand, which is really useful. So we can grab just that strand. And if I were doing this and planning on doing a whole package of hair morphs like this, or just adding a lot of these kind of things, I would probably go ahead and make some polygroups to make this a little more efficient. So you can polygroup by masking. So right here is that command. It's in the polygroups menu. I have a key command for that set to Control W. So then if I just brush over a little bit, holding Control, so I'm masking. If I hit Control W again, you'll see that creates another mask. Or if you auto group hair, this is kind of interesting. If you auto group some fiber mesh, you'll see it creates a group for each strand. So you could get really granular with how you edit this. So let's just put a little bit of masking over a section. Then I'll group that. Mask another section. I'll group that. I'm just going to keep doing this, making these little hair bundles, little groups. And I'm just hiding them as I make them. There's Zbrush saving me from myself. Made sure that I have my my quick saves set up. I will never live down that first seminar and everyone screaming save. So now we have all these different groups made for this hair down the side. That makes it much easier to isolate these. And then we could use our transpose tool. And this is kind of a neat little trick. If I isolate this and I drag down, then I can take this rotate tool and it will rotate this around wherever that transpose tool is at. If I wanted to do it a little more extreme, a little more quickly, I could go to a top view, just swing my camera around and do that by hand like this. Do that a little bit at a time. So there you get this nice coil. And from there, take a move brush. Maybe set this as transparent so I can see exactly what I'm clicking on. And then we just move all of this into place. So then from here, I'm going to hold my shift key down so I have my smooth brush. And I'm just going to gently relax back, smooth back a little bit of that here and there so it's not quite so chunky. Of course, if you're in either Poser or DAZ Studio now with this object, once it's sent over, you can turn it to subdivision, so a lot of that would smooth back out as well. So here you can see we've added some waving, some curling. We could go through and do that with each of those groups. Let's take a look at a different tool as well. We can use, let's see what Groom Spike will do to that. Okay, Groom Spike is going to drag that stuff all out together. Groom Hair Ball does exactly what it says. It creates a little hairball. It's like one of my cats is on here. So Groom Clumps will create, just like it says, some clumping of those strands. And let's take a look here at Groom Twister. So that one is a really handy one if you're trying to create hair with kind of some wavy body to it. Pardon me. Alright. So I'll probably have more groups made over here than what I really need. So let's hide a few of those, group those together. And we'll add a little bit more wave to that brush. And again, right here. Of course, I'm working across this, by poly groups, but we could also just go over large sections if we wanted. So there's something that adds some length and some wave. Then I would hide the figure underneath. Do a merge visible. And now I'm going to send that back across to DAZ Studio. And again, we're going to have to update an existing object. Now this is a step to keep in mind. Every time you send a merged object, it's going to have to reconnect. So you'll have this come up. We'll hit accept. Then choose hair morph demo in my property group. And in name, I'm going to call this longer waves. We'll hit accept, and there you go. So now that I've kind of demonstrated that a little bit, I'm going to take a look back over into the group chat and see if anyone has any other questions that I need to look at. Let's see. Yeah, Susan says you could auto group, do the spirals, and regroup. Absolutely. Gina says rotate tool never works that well for me. The rotate tool, the transpose tools, they take a little getting used to. They're a little weird at first. I'll fully admit that, but they're super powerful. Just spend a little bit of time practicing with them, and I swear it'll come to you. Let's see, Mike Griffin, could you not form one group, do your spirals, then clone that group? You could. To answer your question, Mike, you could, but in cloning the group, the way that you would clone the group would actually be duplicating the subtool. And at the point where you're creating the hair, yeah, you could do that. You could duplicate a subtool, and there are some ways that you could move that hair around, move those groups around. It's going to introduce some issues because when you do it that way, you're not going to have the roots connected to to your initial mesh the way you would if you just generated all the strands you want at the beginning. So that's kind of why we do it in that order. Instead of creating a clump and then duplicating the clump, if you're using fiber mesh, it's really much more efficient to just generate all of those hairs at once, or at least just in a couple of kind of larger batches. So let's see. Terry says if you want to do African American hair, you would spiral each sheet. Actually, if I were going to do something like that, I would probably use quite a few. It would be very dense hair. It really depends. It depends on the style. If it's a shorter style, then I might actually use a texture map that has curled texture on it, and then put that onto hair planes that are growing straight out of the scalp instead of having any kind of length to it. There's a lot of different things to consider with that. So, and every style that you would want to do is going to have its own considerations. So, let's see. Jay Hudson, could you just take an OBJ hair file that you own and alter the hairstyles for practice purposes only? You can load an OBJ in and use the sculpting tools. It's not going to work quite like fiber mesh. So if you have the original, like if you were to buy a set of hair, something that I've made, for instance, that was made using these fiber mesh techniques, then you could take an OBJ of that and edit it, but you're not going to have the fiber mesh functionality left in it because the OBJ just doesn't hold that data. However, if you have access to the original ZTLs for Zbrush, then that's going to have your fiber mesh data. And unlike a lot of folks in this market, I actually am pretty forthcoming with developer tools like that. If I put out a hair kit, someone wants to make an add-on or just wants to play with it like that, if you've bought it, I'll probably, if you just message me, I'll probably send you the ZTL because I'm not real stringent about that. And of course, with these seminars, I think Terry mentioned earlier in the chat that with the content that we do with these, a lot of times we're making the ZTLs available along with packages of whatever it is that we're showing you how to make. So you'd be able to use those like that. So let's see. Susan says very carefully to tighten it. Yeah, I mean, you could do. I'll tell you what. I'll show you a quick trick here. This is kind of neat. Let's say I wanted to to do some editing, create a morph of this hair, and I don't have that resource of the ZTL. I could send this over to Zbrush, through GoZ. So let's send that over to through GoZ. And where did it go? I need to double check. Is it there? No. Actually, I want to send the whole figure over just so I know it's actually going over. I have so many different tools open over there that can be a little confusing. So there we go. Now we can see it. So here we have our hair, and if I show you, if I grab one of my grooming brushes, you're going to see it moves those roots all over the place. They don't really work right when it's no longer fiber mesh. Here's the trick, or a trick. It's not going to make these work the same as they do with fiber mesh, but where these hair strands use square UVs, let's see. I see the comment from Jay Hudson. I'm not likely to be able to do anything with the hair. I was just curious. Stick around. Actually, you will be. You will be. And what I'm showing you right here will get you there. The trick is going to be in masking. And so since we have square UVs, we have some tools here that are kind of some unlikely things to think about. Let's just hide. Let's hide the scalp and the hairband. Okay. Hide both of those guys. And mask them. I want to keep those masked, but I also want them hidden. Now, let's take my standard tool, and I'm going to switch over my alpha to alpha number 27. Alpha 27 is really handy because it's just a straight gradient. So if I turn that on, then I go to my alpha menu, I'm going to rotate that. Okay, so now it's a vertical alpha. Then I'll go to my masking menu right here. And then if I hit mask by alpha, which I'm going to zoom in real close, and in my polyframe, I'm going to turn off lines. So we just have color, but no wireframe showing. And this is just so you can see this more clearly. Now, if I have this vertical gradient selected in my alpha, and I go over here and I hit mask by alpha, okay, actually let's flip that vertically. If I hit mask by alpha, now you see how it became dark down here at these roots, okay? We want the alpha facing this way. So now those roots are masked. And if I sharpen that, you see now I can move that stuff around and do quite a bit with it. That's very similar to what we would do with fiber mesh. And of course, whenever I'm making a morph, I always store a temporary morph target in here first. That way I can always get back to my original shape. But here, if we just, like if we polished that, you see you could turn that super spiky really fast. Now it's actually kind of a cool little look there. Let's send that back over. So let's call that thin spiky. And, I'll just do it this way. Accept. There we go. Let's toss that into my hair morph demo. There we go. And there you see what that does. And that was actually editing as if it were an OBJ. That same thing I just did, that even though I sent it over via GoZ, you could actually do that to an OBJ. All right. And let's kill Photoshop. I'm killing Photoshop there because Photoshop and iRay, if you have Photoshop open when you go to switch over to iRay, a lot of times it will crash things. So I'm going to close that. And I just want to switch it over to iRay for a second just to see what that's going to look like. Because I think that's kind of cool. Let's see. Why, thank you, Gina. So, I hope that this has kind of answered some questions, maybe given a little more insight into some of these techniques, some of the things that I've been trying to show. Apparently, I am not the only one who's ran into the notorious Photoshop iRay crashes of doom. So, anyway. We're gonna keep this one today. I had about 90 minutes blocked out, so it looks like we have around 5 minutes left. And in that time, I'm gonna just open this up a little bit and see if we have any more questions that I can try to take on relatively quickly. In the meantime, I will dial in some hair shapes, play around with some things, and thanks everyone for coming out and checking the stuff out. And I also want to take a second to mention, in order to keep these going, if you guys enjoy what we're doing and you get something out of it and you dig it, then it's really, really helpful to us if you would make sure that you like and share and share this stuff across Facebook and other social media channels, because getting folks to be aware of what we're doing with this, the more folks that come and watch, the more likely we are to be able to keep this going on for quite some time. And I enjoy doing it, and I would like for it to be a success. So far it's been pretty cool, and I hope you folks dig it. I hope you will like and share and tell folks about it, and also let them know, especially if you're friends with folks who are artists who are looking maybe for some new options and where they sell their 3D content. Let them know. CGBytes is a really good place. It's good folks who actually really care a lot about you as artists. And I've had a really, really good time working with them since about the end of last year, and I think you're going to see a lot of good things out of CGBytes. So, and this is just something that they thought was a really good idea to kind of open up and help kind of maybe enrich some of the content artists who are in this field. So, anyway. Jay Hudson, you are very much welcome, sir. Let's see. Mike says, "Be patient. The audience will come as word gets out." I hope so. We don't have any plans to stop doing these anytime soon. Although we are kind of tinkering with the format. Like I said at the very beginning, we're tinkering around with the format a bit, playing around with with scheduling, and we're thinking about using Google Hangouts at least from time to time. There's a lot of different options. The tools that we have for this kind of thing these days are really cool, but there's a lot of them, and there's a little bit of exploration to be had in putting something like this together. So, and you folks who are here at the as we kind of lay the groundwork, I really appreciate you guys being here. It's something kind of cool. So anyway, it looks like it is about time to bring this to a close. So I just want to say thanks again to everybody. Thanks to Jason and Terry and the folks at CGBytes for kind of hosting and facilitating these and promoting them, and for having me on board. And thanks to everybody who watches. If you're watching in a live event, thank you for coming out. And if you're watching afterwards, thank you. And again, like and share and help us get the word out. And make sure that you post some comments if you have questions or anything like that. We do check back in on those, and as those things start to rack up, or if you reach out to me on Facebook or through social media with any questions you have, then I'll be sure to help you out the best I can, because that is what I am here for. For those who don't know, I am officially the director of content artist development at CGBytes, and so my entire job is helping you folks get better as content creators. So feel free to reach out to me pretty much anytime, any place you see me. I'm always online. And with any kind of questions you have about this stuff or anything else regarding content creation, because that's what I'm there for, is to help you guys, pick up whatever skills I can share. So, Riverthorn says, what about using something like Twitch? We could look into that. It's another option. There's a lot of options on the table. So, and anyone has any suggestions toward those things, be sure to let us know. So, folks, we are going to bring this to a close. I want to thank you guys all for being here yet again. And remember, next week we are going to be going over a completely different method of hair creation. And I think you guys will really dig that. So, until next time, I'm Les from 6S1, and this is the CGBytes channel. And thanks for being here.